How do we divide it? I don't know what to expect from Kody. He's been kind of an ass about the property, so he might be an ass about it.
That's not okay. That's not fair. That's making it so our lives are focused on him.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating to me, and it's embarrassing that I lived it.
You know, quite often that he loved his wives. I think it was like a test, he said. And I was like, all it did was,
It reaffirmed?
it was an aphrodisiac. I was like, you love your wives. Great.
There is a battlefield to every story. For the Browns, it is not only their living rooms, their confessionals, or their public battles. It is etched into the earth of northern Arizona. It is Coyote Pass. To the fans, the land was to be a symbol of unity, a promised land where a broken family could reunite. But in reality, Coyote Pass has been a legal, financial, and emotional minefield. And standing in the middle of it all are three names: a judge, Robyn, and Kody. Between them, they are the reason why this land is locked up, why nobody is able to build, why nobody is able to sell, and why, to the bitter end, nobody is able to touch it. To know how we ended up here, we have to go back. The Browns were never a family, they were a brand. TLC cameras did not just film their love stories, they filmed their bank accounts, their sacrifices, and their betrayals. For years, the public bought into the promise: one family, one pot of money, one vision. But the more you dig, the more you find out that one pot was always make believe. Exhibit A, the family pot at first. It worked. Janelle was the breadwinner. Her government salary in Utah provided the Browns with something they rarely had: stability, health insurance, retirement savings. Christine was the domestic heart, unpaid, but working harder than anyone to care for a dozen children. Meri contributed financially when she could. Together, they were three legs of a rickety stool. And along with Robyn, a fourth wife, a new romance, and in several accounts, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. Behind the cameras, Christine and Janelle protested taking on her debts. In front of them, Kody rebranded their objection as betrayal. The dynamics shifted instantly. Family sacrifice no longer translated to family reward. Robyn's arrival changed the equation. Their sacrifices would pay for her security. Exhibit B, the Las Vegas shell game. The relocation from Lehigh to Las Vegas was sold as a necessity: flight from persecution, new beginnings. But financiers and insiders say it was more than that. It was the breaking down of transparency. In Lehigh, everyone lived under one roof, one fridge, one mortgage. Everyone saw where the money went. In Vegas, it came to an end. 4 individual houses equaled 4 individual bills, and one guy who held the reins on TLC income distribution. Janelle and Meri were their own women when it came to money. Christine fought but endured. And Robyn, somehow, even with her debt and without a steady paycheck, she too had a spanking. New house like the others. How? The theory is straightforward. TLC money was utilized first to eliminate Robyn's debts, repair her credit, and invest in her future. The others became collateral. Their financial history leveraged to qualify for mortgages. Their sacrifices directed into another person's security. Exhibit C, my sister-wife's closet. If the Vegas houses were the setup for the shell game, my sister-wife's closet was the distraction. Presenting itself as a family business, it was soon apparent. This was not a revenue stream. It was a money pit. Consultants have called it unviable from day one. But this is the kicker. Records indicate Kody and Robyn were the signatories in control of the business accounts. That is, cash coming into MSWC, from the family, from TLC, could be used not only for business expenses, but to direct funds directly into Robyn's home. Phones, laptops, even parts of her home office, all expensed, all permissible, and all sucking the very pot the other wives assumed was collective. The outcome by the end of the Vegas years, Christine, Janelle, and Meri were independent. They paid their bills, took care of their kids, and even started businesses. But Robyn's financial security was forever cemented. not by her efforts but by theirs. Exhibit D, the Flagstaff collapse, which leads us back to Flagstaff. The official version, Kody was called to relocate. The real version, a sale. By selling off the Vegas properties, he converted 4 secure, self-sustaining assets into liquid capital. Capital that could be rerouted, capital that could be consolidated. And where did they end up? On an $820,000 spot of Arizona ground known as Coyote Pass, sold as the new dream, positioned as the where they'd construct their forever houses. But the deeds speak the truth. Christine and Janelle had their parcels alone. A minor compromise. Meri was bound to Kody on hers. And Robyn, she shared ownership of the largest, most expensive parcel with Kody. Add in a 5th parcel, also attached to Kody and Robyn, and you get the picture. Control was not shared. It was solidified. Coyote Pass was not an equal vision. It was Kody and Robyn's kingdom, in waiting. And then the judge appeared. Property taxes went unpaid. Disputes over ownership mounted. And suddenly, the truth burst forth in court documents. The land is frozen. No building, no selling out. Until these disputes are settled, no one, not Christine, not Janelle, not even Kody himself, can lay their hands on it. But don't think for a second this is the end. It is just the beginning of the reckoning, because now, the question is no longer about family dreams. It's about legal evidence, about receipts, about who truly owns the Brown family's future. And in the next part of this investigation, we'll open that file. We'll examine the betrayals buried beneath the surface of Coyote Pass. And we'll ask, was this ever about family? Or was it always about Robyn and Kody? Coyote Pass was sold to them as the land of promise. Kody explained to his wives and to the cameras that this was their opportunity to be one family once more, living alongside each other in dream homes on their own ground. But as the dust settled and the reality became clear, what they purchased wasn't a dream. It was a trap, because beneath the surface of each spadeful of earth, there was betrayal. Betrayals that weren't merely emotional. They were legal, financial, and irreversible. Exhibit E. Christine's quiet rebellion. Christine Brown devoted decades of her life to this family. She mothered more children than any of the other wives. She gave up career prospects, and she devoted herself to holding the family together. Her job wasn't glamorous. It wasn't about flashy buys and bottom lines. It was unremunerated labor. The sort that never appears on spreadsheets, but that keeps families intact. But when Christine examined her Coyote Pass deed, she was surprised. Yes, she had a plot in her name alone, about 2 acres. But it wasn't the gem. It wasn't the prime spot with the pond access. That property belonged to Kody and Robyn. Christine recognized what viewers recognized years later. She was awarded a consolation prize. A storyline that provided her with technical ownership, but one that bound her to a plan in which she never actually believed. When she eventually left Kody, it wasn't merely a spiritual divorce. It was an economic extraction. She sold her house in Flagstaff, took her equity, and exited. Her departure was a rebellion act, not only against Kody, but the entire financial system he constructed with Robyn. Christine didn't merely leave a marriage. She left a system that was intended to downplay her value. Exhibit F. Janelle's financial trap, where Christine's was a story of passive defiance. Janelle's was a tale of tragic allegiance. For decades, she was the breadwinner. Her pay, her benefits, her savings. They weren't merely her inputs. They were how the family stayed alive. It was when the Vegas houses were sold that insiders claimed Janelle's equity, and planning were what made Coyote Pass possible. And when bills needed to be paid, property taxes, land loans, emergencies, whom did Kody turn to Janelle? On camera, Kody confessed that they had used their funds to settle the land. Consider that, if true, it means Janelle's lifetime savings went not just towards her own plot, but towards the top acres owned by Kody and Robyn as well. She didn't just contribute, she guaranteed the empire. And what did she have to show for it? An RV in the desert. A dream home that never came about, because of some promise. A plot of land she couldn't even build on because her resources were spent on paying for everyone else. It is little wonder that when Janelle finally snapped at Kody, it wasn't about respect alone. It was about the fact that her loyalty had been taken to the breaking point. Exhibit G, Meri's bitter reality. Meri, the initial wife, once thought she had a secure position in the family. She was bound to Kody by law, by history, and by religion. But in Coyote Pass, her deed bound her to him in a decidedly different manner: co-ownership. Unlike Christine and Janelle, Meri's land was not her own. She could not sell it. She could not cash it out. Every move had to be approved by Kody. She was bound to him legally even as their emotional bond deteriorated. And on top of that, the fact that her proposals for family investments, into her bed and breakfast, into her business ventures, were rejected, while Robyn's business ventures were financed without hesitation. The message was unmistakable. Meri's money was okay. Her independence was not. Exhibit H, Robyn's advantage. And now back to the core of the case. Robyn, while Christine received a humble package and Janelle was coerced into paying for the land, and Meri was locked down to Kody against her will, Robyn was gifted shared ownership of the most expensive plots, 5 acres. The crown of Coyote Pass, shared with Kody, and another smaller tract combined. They provided her, and Kody, not only a home plat, but control. Control over the project. Control over future sales. Control over the very future of the family. This wasn't equality. It was consolidation. Exhibit I. The judges freeze by the time disagreements over property tax and ownership found their way to court. It was clear to all that the cracks had showed. Christine was elsewhere. Janelle was second-guessing. Meri was out of the picture. And Robyn, with Kody, held the deeds that counted. The judge surveyed the chaos: unpaid taxes, challenged contributions, rival claims to ownership, and made the decree: the land is frozen. No sales. No building. No growth. Not until these conflicts are resolved, in one blow, the dream disappeared. The soil was worthless, but the freeze did not damage everyone equally. Christine had already gotten away. Meri had her business elsewhere. Janelle was struggling, yes, but she still maintained her independence. The ones with the majority, the ones who believed they had won. Kody and Robyn, they sit today with the land in their names, but cannot lay hands on it. They cannot construct. They cannot sell. They cannot reap profits. It is the grand irony. The empire that took them 10 years to build is fixed in place. A frozen memorial to betrayal. And so the question is, what now? Who gains from the freeze? Who loses? And what will the ultimate reckoning expose when the ledgers are exposed? Because if Christine's rebellion, Janelle's entrapment, and Meri's tethering were the warning signs, then the freeze is the verdict. But this court case is far from over. The second half of this investigation goes deeper still into the receipts, the charges, and the insiders who say the financial game was fixed from Thond when all those receipts are spread out. The tale of Coyote Pass is no longer one of land, but of betrayal on a scale never seen in reality television. The relocation from Las Vegas to Flagstaff was marketed on television as a spiritual imperative, a family reboot, even a housing emergency. But when excuses are stripped bare, you are left with a liquidation sale. 4 houses, 4 mortgages, 4 combinations of equity painstakingly accumulated by the wives. And all of them sold within a span of months: Christine's house, Janelle's house, Meri's house, even Robyn's. The money combined, millions of dollars made liquid overnight. But here is the important part. Once money was liquid, it could be diverted. And that is what they did. Rather than reinvesting their equity in their respective individual homes, The majority of the money went into one enormous purchase, Coyote Pass. And when the deeds were signed, the ownership wasn't equitable. It wasn't equitable. It was strategically set up to give power to Kody and Robyn. This wasn't pandemonium. It was intentional. Exhibit K, the Robyn debt bailout even before the property was purchased. Insiders claim that a large percentage of the Vegas equity went nowhere near the property. It went towards paying off Robyn's debts. Keep in mind, when Robyn arrived in the family, she carried tens of thousands of dollars worth of catalog debt. That albatross didn't evaporate overnight. It had to be paid off before anyone could get a mortgage. And how was it handled? Money from family. Money from TLC. Wives' equity. Christine herself alluded on, chimera to frustration, at how resources seemed to gravitate toward Robyn. Janelle silently confessed she was covering her own expenses while others rode the family pot. And by the time the Vegas properties were sold, Robyn's credit was spotless enough to secure the Flagstaff mansion. That was no luck. That was a bailout. A bailout that was paid for by the same women now locked out of Coyote Pass. Exhibit L. The tax time bombs skip ahead to the years following the move, with Coyote Pass remaining empty lots. The bills began rolling in: property taxes, mortgage payments, maintenance, and again and again. The proof is evident that when those bills were due, it wasn't Kody who paid them. It wasn't Robyn. It was Janelle. We've seen on television as she confessed to paying property taxes, even when she was living in an RV. We've seen her struggling financially as Robyn lounged in $1 million house. Fans were asking the question on everyone's mind: how is the woman supporting the family for decades now reduced to an RV when the favorite wife gets to live in luxury?